Right. Good evening. Today we're learning Maseches Bava Metzia, Daf Pei Beis. We are starting at the two dots, 7 lines from the bottom of Pei Aleph Amud Beis. As you can see from Pei Beis Amud Beis, it's not a very long block, and we'll be getting to the top of Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, which is where we're going to stop, and then tomorrow we're going to pick up there. As mentioned, I'm out Wednesday night for sure, and I'll have to record earlier in the day. Thursday, I should be back in time to give shiur, and if not, I'll just record and post. It really depends on which flight I take. What?
Gotta be back Thursday.
No, I don't. Last I checked, I don't work for you.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I hear there's an opening, but.
There's an opening. Wowzers. What's going on in this room here? All right, let's go. No. Says the Gemara at the two dots. We had learned the din in the Mishnah of Havei ala mashkon shomer sacha, that if I lend you money and in light of the loan, you give me an item as collateral. So for me, I'm the person who lent the money, and I'm watching your collateral so that you can have my money as a loan. So then I function as a shomer sacha. Says the Gemara, perhaps we should say masnisin delo Rabbi Lazar. It must be that this din is not like Rabbi Lazar's din. The Tanya, we have a machlokes, Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Akiva. We'll be referencing this for the next 15 lines or so. So it's good to hear. Actually, we'll be referencing this for the first Amud. Well, it's good to understand this machlokes between Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya, Malbes chaver ala mashkon v'avad amashkon. Let's say that I'm watching something of yours. What I'm watching of yours is a mashkon, it's collateral. And v'avad amashkon, and I lose it. Also, I'm watching something of yours. What's the din? I lost it. What's the din by gneva ve'aveda? Chayev, your shomer sacha, right? What does Rabbi Lazar say over here? You can make a shvua that you did nothing wrong, and then ask for your money back in the loan, namely your putter from actually paying from a lost item, which means that you're not a shomer sacha. So that's how we see potentially that our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Eliezer. And the dissenting opinion is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva Omer Yochol Lomar Lo Klum Hilbisani Ala Ala Mashkon. But the only reason why I lent you money in the first place was because of the mashkon. And therefore, avad amashkon, avad ma'osecha. The fact that you've lost a mashkon, that's a big problem. That means that you've lost your money. There's an interdependency on the loan and the mashkon. This is a discussion, all right? How do we view the mashkon? Is the mashkon just a safety net? Or is the mashkon etzem, like tied into the loan, right? So that's what this machlok is.
If it's worth less,
we're going to discuss that. Yeah. What were you going to say? Sorry.
No, if it's worth less than when you made the loan, or if it's worth more than when you made the loan,
Yeah, let's wait till the next time. We're going to discuss that iteration. Good question. Now, continuing in this brisa, we saw the shita of Rabbi Eliezer that you are not chayev on gneva ve'aveda if you are halvei ala mashkon. We saw the shita of Rabbi Akiva that yes, you are. And says the Gemara, aval, everyone agrees to the following. 3 lines from the bottom. Let's say we had a shtar. So we have 2 things. I lent you money, you gave me a shtar, and there everyone agrees that if you are avad hamashkon, that you have lost your money. Everyone agrees to that. So what do we see from Rabbi Lazar? Rabbi Lazar seems to not be like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that halvei ala mashkon is a shomer sachar. Rabbi Lazar says that halvei ala mashkon can make a shvua and he's putter. It says the Gemara, answer number 1. We'll have a few answers over here. We're on the bottom 2 lines of Pei Aleph and Medbeis. Afilu tema Rabbi Lazar. Our Mishnah, which says that halvei ala mashkon is a shomer sachar, that the malveh is a shomer sachar when he watches your mashkon. That could even be like Rabbi Lazar, v'lo kasha kanshe mashkon b'shas halva aso, kanshe mashkon shelo b'shas halva aso. One is where the mashkon was given at the time of the loan, and one is a case where the mashkon was not given at the time of the loan. The Rishonim explained that in a case where we say shemashkon b'shas halva aso, that's Rabbi Eliezer, because that's talking about where the person's a shomer chinam. Why? Because when I lend you money and you give me collateral, Bezdin wasn't mechayev me in that collateral. I did it just as a good gesture. It's good faith. However, kanshe mashkon shelo b'shas halva aso. But in the second case where there was a problem with the loan, and Bezdin, that's what Rashi says on the side, and Bezdin required you to take that mashkon, that's a whole nother level of mashkon. That mashkon is already a formal din. So that's what the Gemara says, that perhaps we can still say our Mishnah is like Rabbi Eliezer, And we don't have to say that it's not like Rabbi Eliezer. Says the Gemara, not a good argument. You can't give that argument because, says the Gemara, Beho, Edi v'Edi, top up, Edi. Nice, no? Nice little play on words. Just calm. That's good. Nobody followed?
My college name is Edie, so.
I know.
He's
but
getting married. I was just giving a little.
I thought it was great.
You're right. Thank you.
I know.
Thank you. I didn't think of it till just now, like I planned it. I didn't write it in my notes. Kan divrei kalashal Michael. I didn't write that in my notes. Should have. So we made this distinction between when the mashkon was it given at the time of the loan, in which case the love would be, in which case the malva would be a shomer chinam, or if it was mashkon or shelo b'shas halva, in which case it would be that he's a shomer sachar. Says the Gemara, you can't say that because the language doesn't distinguish between the brisa of Rebbe Lazar and our Mishnah. They both say al ve'ala mashkon. So therefore, the Gemara says you're right. Answer number 2, Ella. Lokasha, another possibility as to how we could explain that Rabbi Eliezer is still a possible fit to our Mishnah. Lokasha kan shel ve'umos, kan shel ve'uperos. It's different. Maybe one case, maybe our Mishnah, when it says that the malva is like a shomer sachar, that's, I'm sorry, that in the Brisa, when Rabbi Eliezer says that it's like a shomer chinam, that's al ve'umos. However, our Mishnah, kan shel ve'peros. There's a big upside to peros. When I lend you peros, you have to pay me back new peros. So if I give you apples that are 2 days old, you're going to return apples that are beautiful, brand new. So that's a shtickle kick. That's a nice little upsell, and it works for me. Therefore, shomer sachar. Says the Gemara, the distinction that you just made between peros and maos, you cannot make. Second line. Hold on 1 second. What did we say in our Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda, and only Rabbi Yehuda, was the one who made the distinction between maos and peros. That implies that the Tanna Kama lo shanila, that the Tanna Kama does not make a distinction between these two, in which case you cannot read our Mishnah as there being a difference between maos and peros. So then the Gemara gives a bit of a difficult answer. The Gemara says, you're right. 5 lines down, really kula Rabbi Yehuda. Really, our whole Mishnah from Daf Pei Amud Beis, which is where this Mishnah is sourced. We learned it the other day. Really, kula Rabbi Yehuda v'chaser mechsar v'chiktani. Really, here's the right way to learn our Mishnah. But the whole thing is Rabbi Yehuda. Halveu ala mashkon shomer sachar. The pashtos we should learn like this: that if I lend you money, I'm the malva, and you give me a collateral, then me, as it relates to your collateral, I'm a shomer sachar. When is this true? Peros. That's true only by peros, because it's amazing for me that I lend you peros and I get back beautiful peros. Why would this distinction be true? This does work out very nicely. If you in fact learn the Mishnah this way, there's only one problem. Says the Gemara, if you learn that our Mishnah is like Rabbi Yehuda and not like the Stam, not like the Tanna Kama, that poses an issue. Stam Mishnah is Rav Meir. Who is Rav Meir's Rabbi Akiva? Oh, so says the Gemara. If this is true, that the whole Mishnah from Daf Pei Amud Beis is like the Shita Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Akiva, then you're establishing the Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda, which means it's not like Rav Meir, which means it's not like Rabbi Akiva, because if his machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and a Stam Mishnah, that's machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Meir. And if you're establishing the Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda, so then how do we learn the Stam Mishnah? That doesn't make sense. We have to follow Rabbi Akiva. So it says the Gemara, you're 100% right. We therefore pivot away and say that you're right. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Lazar, but rather it's like Rabbi Akiva. It says the Gemara, Lema, perhaps the machlokes in the brisa on the bottom that we started with today, the machlokes of Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Akiva, where Rabbi Lazar said that if there's halveu ala mashkon and it gets lost, that the malva can make a shua and get out of it. And Rabbi Akiva, who said, nope, that's not correct. Lema b'delo shavi mashkon shiur zuze. That perhaps, like Tex was saying earlier, that the mashkon, the collateral item, is not the same value as the item that was lent. So the Gemara gives an example. Perhaps Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Akiva are arguing within Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel, Haiman de Osfe Alfa Zuzah Lechabre. I lend you $1,000. The Anachle Kata de Magla Ilavayu. And I lend you, and I put as collateral something that's very inexpensive, the handle of a sickle. That's not very expensive relative to $1,000, but it's a few bucks. I was walking through Lowe's today through that section. You can see the axe, that axe row. It's not a Geshmak place. So they have handles just for axe. It says like $10. It's nothing. They're not so expensive. Says the Gemara, Avad kato de magla, avdu alfe zuze. So what Shmuel would have said is that if you lose the collateral, if the malva loses the collateral, then the loan doesn't have to be paid back. That thing was not financially equivalent, but was halachically equivalent to the loan. Says the Gemara, that's not how we paskin. Even the lo shavi mashkon shiur zuzeh. If you want to say that Rebbe Lazar and Yehuda are arguing about an uneven collateral, where the collateral is worth $10 and the loan is worth $1,000, the kulayama les lehu de Shmuel. Nobody agrees with Shmuel. Everyone says that that's not clearly not the case. That the handle of a sickle is shaved to $1,000. But the shavi shiur zuzeh, really the collateral was the same amount, right? So I needed some liquid cash. So I needed $50,000 of cash. My car is $50,000. So I give you my car while I take the cash and go do what I need to do with it. Give it to Rabbi Yitzchak. And perhaps the question is, who actually owns the collateral when it's in my property? Let's say I lend you $1,000 and you give me your car as collateral. Do I own your car while it's a mashkon by me? So this is potentially the machlokas. How do we know that a Baal Chov actually owns the collateral that he's holding on to? That to you, you have an opportunity to be righteous. The righteousness is when you give back the mashkon. And if you don't actually own the mashkon, what righteousness can you perform? Elamai, it must be that you own the mashkon. Mikan lebal chov shekona mashkon. And perhaps this is the machlokas between the two. Says the Gemara B'Tizbara, is this logical to assume? After all, Amor, what we could say is Amor Damar Rav Yitzchak. Maybe Rav Yitzchak only said his din that you're a tzaddik is b'mashkono shelo b'shas salvaso, is when the mashkon was established after the loan took place, namely when Bezdin instituted it. When Bezdin institutes a mashkon, then yes, the malva owns the mashkon. But if I just give it to you as a gesture of good faith, then no. No one would ever say such a thing. So that can't be the machlokas Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Akiva around the din of Rabbi Yitzchak. So therefore, the Gemara says as follows: when it comes to a mashkon shelo b'shas halva also, everyone agrees that if a mashkon was established by Bezdin, that pashut that the malva owns that mashkon. What are Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Akiva arguing about? An old sugya that was taught in Ari Crown to my little kid, and we learned it 100 times in our house with the kids over the years. We're talking about a case of a shomer aveda. You lost something. I'm watching that something. And there's a machlokas as to my status. If you lose your phone and I'm watching your phone, what is my halachic status with your lost item? So to this, the Gemara says, "It mar shomer aveda Rabba amar kishomer chinam, Rabbi Yosef amar kishomer sachar." And perhaps this is the machlokas between them. That Rabba is like the shita of Rebbe Lazar, and the Rabbi Akiva is like the shita of Rabbi Yosef. Says the Gemara, "Lemed Rabbi Yosef tonight." You're going to say there's a machlokas tanaim about this shita? Doesn't make sense. Lo, that's not the way to look at it. Really, b'shomer aveda the kulei amayis Rabbi Yosef. Everyone agrees when it comes to shomer aveda. We agree with Rabbi Yosef that you are like a shomer sachar. Okay, let's keep trying. The hacha, turning to the top of Pei Beis and Mid Beis. Here, what we're talking about is when the malve actually needed the item that was the mashkon. So let's say I severely needed an axe to cut wood in my backyard. My parnasa depended upon it. I lent you money, and I say, I'm going to lend you money. But the mashkon has to be an axe. I condition, or I'm really benefiting from the fact that you gave me a mashkon that I actually need. So here, Mar Savar Mitzvah Ka'abed Shehil Vehu B'Havish Shomer Sachar. This is Rabbi Akiva. That really you still performed the mitzvah of Im Kesef Talve Esami, and you are a Shomer Sachar. Or Umar Savar Lav Mitzvah Ka'abed. When the mashkon that you get is to your benefit, there's an impurity in your loan. There's an ulterior motive. What? It's like trading. It's like bartering almost. Yeah, there's something there. And therefore, and he was only intending for his own good, and therefore, I thought
when you do something like that, a trade, that you can't use that item.
In this case, it was not that way. That's what Rashi says at the top of the page. B'malveu tzarach l'mashkon lihishtamesh bo. He will use it, and what he'll do with it is reduce the chov with the use of the mashkon. So let's say every time I hit the axe, it costs me a quarter, right? So I owe you $10. I use the axe. I'm sorry, you borrowed $10 from me and gave me an axe. Every time I hit the axe, I reduce 25 cents. That's the condition that we made. So because I needed that mashkon, so that's why the Gemara says at least one of the sheets. It would have to be understood. Yeah, it would be understood. Yes. Hey Beis Amid Beis at the 2 dots, 4 lines down. Abishalam or Motor Ladam Lasker Mashkon Shalom Yos Poches V'Olev. Is that I'm allowed, if I have something of yours, I can rent it out to be Poches V'Holech. Amar Rav Chanan Bar Ami Amar Shmuel Halacha Kabashal, we paskin like Abishal. Baf Abishalo Amar Ela B'Mara Upasal B'Kardom. These are different types of tools, and if you look on I have the Hagos with Rashi actually sends you to Hagos with I don't speak old French, but it says on the side here that one of them is talking about a garden tool ma'ader, like a hoe or a rake or something. One is like an axe, and the last one is a double-edged sharp thing that was kind of used to poke holes in the ground. Okay, so these are these different things. And what's the upside of these that Abishol says you're allowed to lend these out? Very simple. Hol v'nafish agrahu. They're profitable. V'zutar pachtahu. But they don't have a significant depreciation. In those cases, you can lend them out and help reduce a person's chov. Masnisan, the new Mishnah begins on Pei Beis Amid Beis, a quarter of the way down. Hamavir chavis mimakom l'makom l'shabra. Let's say I'm moving a barrel from one place to another. Bein shomer chinam, bein shomer sachar, yishava. We don't presume that you were, wired as a klutz. So you can make a shua and say that you were not poshea. That's what the Gemara says. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, it's really Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar Omer, zev ezeh yishava. Did I skip? No. Zev ezeh yishava. I thought it was, yeah. Rabbi Lazar Omer, zev ezeh yishava. Yes, I agree with you that they can both make a shema, but v'tmiya ani im yechol and zev ezeh yishava. But he says, like, I agree that's the din, but I don't understand it. So we don't know what this means yet. We'll see in the Gemara what it means. The Gemara opens a third of the way down, Pei Beis Amid Beis, Tan Rabbanan, very similar, but with an extra shita. Hamaver chavis l'chaver mimakom l'makom l'shavra. Tanakama says, which is Reb Meir. Bein shomer chinam, bein shomer sachar yishava ad divrei Reb Meir. Reb Meir holds that you can just make a shua and pater yourself. So says the Gemara, what does that mean? You can pater yourself? It means that you are not poshea, right? If you're poshea, it doesn't really help. Rabbi Yehuda Omer shomer chinam yishava, no say sachar yishalin. Rabbi Yehuda distinguishes that when it comes to a shomer chinam, you have a lower level of responsibility, so you can make a shvua. When it comes to a no say sachar, to a shomer sachar, you have a greater level of responsibility, and therefore you have to pay. Your shvua doesn't help. So we have a machlokas, Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, and then lastly, Rabbi Eliezer Omer zeh b'zeh yishava, and maskim that they can both make a shvua like the sheet of Reb Meir. Utmiya ani im yichol and zeh b'zeh yishava, but I question it. We don't know what this means yet. So let's analyze. We're on the first of the very long lines on Pei Beis Amid Beis. The Memra, the Savar of Meir Niska la Poshea. You're trying to tell me if somebody trips, they're not a Poshea? Let's just call this out. Someone's walking down the street and they pasha face plant. Is that a pshia? Have they lost it? Is it irresponsible of them that they tripped? Yes or no? So it seemed from the Reb Meir that we see in our Gemara, what did he say? That you can be yishava. If I'm carrying your barrel and I drop it and it breaks, Reb Meir was of the opinion that you can make a shvua and then pater yourself. That shows you that niskal is la posheh. So says the Gemara, L'meimar d'sav Reb Meir niskal la posheh, that if you trip, you're not posheh. Well, that's not so pasha, because v'atanya, we learned this in Bava Kama. Nishbarakad avalo silka. A man is in a public domain and a pitcher breaks and the owner doesn't pick it up. Nafla gemala v'lo ha'amida. Camel falls down and the owner doesn't pick him up. What does Reb Meir say? Reb Meir says, Mechai be'azeka. What does that look like? Looks like you're a poshea. Looks like if something falls and you do nothing about it, so you're a poshea. So there's a stira within Reb Meir. We learned this in Bava Kama in a few places. So it's Gemara. In such a case, okay, I disagree with Reb Meir in that you're really chai be'azekon. Reb Meir is of the opinion that you're chai be'azekon, but the Chachamim say you're pater b'dinei adam and only chai b'dinei shamayim only. And we learned over there that the machlokas is whether or not if you fall, if that's considered pshia. So what do we see? We see two Rav Meirs. We have Rav Meir from our Mishnah and the opening brisa, in the Gemara that seems to say, that says, Bein Shomer Chinam, Bein Shomer Sachar Yishava, that the person who was moving the barrel and tripped and the barrel broke, we say that guy can make a shvun pater himself. That means Niskal is La Poshea. Yet when it comes to all the cases of the case of Rishus HaRabim, there we see that you are Poshea. Amar Rebbe Lazar Tavra. You're 100% correct. Something's broken. Misha Shanazu Lo Shanazu. We've seen this line many times in Shas. Whoever taught one of these Mishnayos, it couldn't be the author of the other. There's a misrepresentation of the Shita of Reb Meir. Okay. The Asir of Yehuda Lemeimar, I distinguish Shomer Chinam Yishava Nosei Sachar Yishalim, that there's a difference between a Shomer Chinam Hai Kidine V'Hai Kidine. The difference is that a Shomer Chinam has a lower level of Shmira, so his din is that he's allowed to make a Shvua. But a Shomer Sachar has a higher level of Shmira, so then his din is that he's not allowed to make a Shvua, he's obligated to pay. And what was this whole Rebbe Lazar thing? 4 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Eliezer Lemeimar, Ein Gemara in Kama. Gemara Kereb Meir. Yes, I agree that the tradition is like Reb Meir, that we allow Bein Shomer and Bein Shomer Sachar, that if I drop the barrel and I drop them and I fall and they crack, that I'm allowed to make a shvun pater myself. Umiyu, says Rebbe Lazar. Tmiya anim yicholim zebazei lishava. I don't understand how this works. Now, what is the underbelly of Rebbe Lazar's concerns? 3 lines from the bottom. I could understand by a shomer chinam what you're testing with the shvua is whether or not he was poshea. Shomer Sachar, 2 lines from the bottom. Why would he make a shvua? Kilo pasha nami shlume boy. Even without pshia, he's going to be held accountable. He has a higher level of shmira. Ve'afidu shomer chinam nami. Even in regards to a shomer chinam, where Rabbi Lazar said, "Bepashtas he should be able to make a shvua." Tenech b'makom madron. That's true if the ground is sloped, where there's a little bit of an angle. Okay, you tripped a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to get your bearings on a little bit of a slope. But shelo b'makom madron, you're walking in Chicago in West Rogers Park, which is like the flattest territory. The biggest hill we have is what's that thing called? The Mount Rushmore. That's it. We have an elevation of 100 feet. But everything else is flatland.
Sidewalks aren't deep.
That's not a slope. You're right. That's a good point. If you're walking on a sidewalk where the sidewalks are uneven.
Slope that's a muddy
No,
trail.
but I've kicked my shoe on a.
Yeah,
we've all done
I'm
it.
sure.
So that might be begeder madron.
Trail, or it rains,
What?
a muddy.
Yeah,
trail.
for sure.
It rains.
Absolutely. Here we'd have to get into the Rishonim. What's a madron? Like, what are the levels? Like, we have, for example, the slope requirement for a slope functioning as a wall for a mechitza. It's what is it, 10 tefachim over 4 amos, or I can't remember, some kind of slope like that. We learned this in Eruvin. Anyways, so it says the Gemara. My PTSD was another Maseches, so. But clearly I didn't remember this one either, so it doesn't really matter. So it says the Gemara, what about the fact that shelo b'makom madron mi matzi mishtaba delo pasha? If you're poshea, if you can't walk straight, you got that's something's wrong. You're poshea. And turning to the top of Pei Gimel Amud Aleph and coming to the end of the day, we're going to finish on the 5th or 6th line. V'afilu b'makom madron nami, even in a place that is sloped. I could understand, or Rio, I could understand that you're allowed to make a shvua when nobody sees you. That makes sense. Aval, heicha de'ika Rio, when someone does see you, nesi raya v'niftar. That's not enough. Then someone has to, if someone actually sees you, then you have to not make a shvua. You'd have to bring the edim to Tanya. 3 lines down. Yisi ben Yehuda Omer, ein roa shvuas Hashem tia ben shneim. If nobody saw, then Hashem's, the shvua that you make to Hashem will be the clarity. But hayeshur, if somebody does see you, then yabi rav yiftar. So this was Rabbi Lazar's quandary. He didn't really understand this distinction in chov between the shomer chinam and the shomer sachar. He understood a little bit about the shomer chinam, maybe, but shomer sachar should have been chayiv no matter what, because he would have been chayiv even without a pshia. So we'll stop right here and we'll pick up with V'Reb Bar Abba tomorrow night. What day is it? Monday. So Tuesday night we'll pick up right here. Wishing you all a beautiful night.